principles first. So there's a very interesting thing about persuading, because there's a third way that's common in Asian cultures, but really doesn't fit anywhere on this scale. And so, let's see, I talked about this. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Before I get to that, let me just kind of reemphasize. So this is the communicating and evaluating. I already gave the story about this, kind of communicating versus low context and high context and evaluating. This is just a fun graphic about this, and I'm going to let you guys read this. People have told me it's very true. I can't say exactly because I'm neither British nor Dutch, but this is an example of where the communication breaks down in terms of direct and indirect. In this case, the British are more indirect and the Dutch are more direct. So I'm going to let you just read through that and hopefully get a chuckle. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that. My favorite is the bottom one. When the British say, I'm sure it's my fault, and they mean it's your fault. And the Dutch understand it's their fault. Okay, so this is where I started to go, and I'm going to explain now, because I think this is super interesting. So remember, we have principles first versus applications first. But in Asia, there tends to be something that Meyer calls a holistic worldview. And this, again, is a really helpful concept to understand. Oh, you work with Dutch. Okay, MD. This is a really helpful concept to understand. So the idea of a holistic view, this is an example in a picture of the difference between an American portrait and a Japanese portrait. So two photographers, one's American, one Japanese, were said to go into a room and take a portrait of a woman, right? Given the same thing. And the American took the portrait on the left. And the American portrait is focused on the face, right? That if you want the essence of this person, you want to see their face, their expression, how they are in, okay, how they are. That's the idea of an American portrait. On the right is a Japanese portrait. So the Japanese photographer would say, the American portrait is incomplete. It only shows the face. It doesn't show the context that person is in. It doesn't show where they are. It doesn't show their entire self and the context that surrounds them. And so to persuade in Asian cultures, according to Meyer, you need to be able to provide that full context before you get to your main point. This is different than creating principles and showing data, but this is starting to describe the entire situation around a specific problem or challenge before you get to that challenge. And if you listen to that, if you have colleagues, you may be familiar with this already, you may speak this way. If you don't speak this way, if you listen to colleagues, I can remember I was interviewing, this was for a research report I was doing, and I was interviewing someone in China, and I asked a question about a product in their company. And he started with, well, let me tell you about what happened historically when we were thinking about our customers 4 years ago, and told this long story, and then finally at the very end answered my question. And I mean, literally took 10 minutes. And I had happily read this framework before, and so instead of being kind of confused why he wasn't answering my question, which would be a typical American response, I was able to just listen to the story and enjoy and realize he was painting this broader portrait that he felt was very important for me to know before he could answer my question specifically. So really fascinating stuff. Hope that you have enjoyed this. Again, this is a framework that's available to you if it's of interest. So 4 quick ideas in terms of bridging barriers. And this could be cultural, but this could not be cultural. This could be just people that you have challenges working with, right? First, assume differences until similarity is proven. We as human beings love to find things that are similar. There's an example of a business school study where you put people in a room and half the people were told to negotiate right away. The other half were told, find something that you share in common and then negotiate. And they came up with a much better result from the negotiation. As human beings, we like to find similarities and we look for those. But if you can start from a place when you're working cross-culture that you may be speaking differently, you may be thinking differently, and you can really listen for that, you're going to be more effective. If you feel like you're running into trouble when you're having communication, see if you can emphasize description. Okay? So see if you can explain things, not just concretely, but in more detail so that your meaning can be understood. Practice empathy. So understand that, you're both trying and it may not work. And treat your interpretations as a working hypothesis. And I really think, these are all things that work across culture, but they really work more broadly too for people that are different than you, who are coming at things differently, who are relating differently, how you can build those strong relationships. Okay, great. So we are almost at the end of our course. And what I would like you to do now is to think about how you might put all of the learning over the past 4 sessions together. So thinking about the learning, what we learned today, and also what you've learned in previous sessions, think about a change you would like to lead in your organization. What kind of change? It could be implementing a new process. It could be a new policy. It could be getting people to be on time to meetings, any kind of change, a change that you think this would be great if we could do this in an organization. And I'd like you to, and I'm not going to ask you to share this, but just try this exercise of writing down that change in one sentence. Why is it a problem worth solving, and what's the impact if the change is not implemented? Who are your stakeholders? What are their currencies? How might you build and strengthen those relationships? How would you develop your team through this change? And which strengths might you develop through this change? So I'm going to give you 15 minutes to do this exercise. I'll put out a pulse check and not a new pulse check. I think you had an old pulse check. Put out a new pulse check there. And I'd like you to, and if you want to reflect some of this and share some of this in the chat, you're welcome to, but you don't have to. So, all right, let's get started. And just give me that thumbs up if you finished. Or if you're not doing the exercise, then give me a thumbs up too, so we don't wait. And again, if you do get done early and want to share either the change or things you might want to try, feel free, but absolutely not required. I'm going to take about 7-8 more minutes on this. We need it. About 30% of you have given me a thumbs up, so I know some of you are done. Give a little more time for the other people.